probably the most famous sports car, not only coming out of America or the JDM market, but perhaps of all time. Made famous from the likes of the Fast and Furious campaign and also subsequent movies, but also of Mr. Paul Walker himself, God rest his soul. A turbocharged inline six that could make what? Quadruple its horsepower easily, while also being a reliable vehicle from the manufacturer itself, has a special place in all of our hearts. At this point in time, you probably know the vehicle I'm talking about. We have running jokes about it, we have memes, and of course, whenever we see one in person, we have to ask, is that a Supra? Production ended for the Supra several decades ago, but it has lived on in our hearts. You can even tell by the price, because a shell for one is like, what, 40, 50, 60 grand without the motor or transmission or anything in it? Absolutely ridiculous, thanks for the fanfare. However, this intense fanfare could not stop Toyota from never producing one again. However, in order to do so, they had to turn to their German competitors. The 2JZ GTE has been out of production as well for several decades now, so there's no tooling for it. There's no plants that make it. They don't have an assembly line set up for an inline six actually at all at Toyota. So instead of them having to design a motor from the ground up and also get the subsequent tooling and also make the assembly line, etc., all the material and resources they would have needed to produce a motor, they decided, hey guys, our customer base really wants this, but we don't want to spend the money on the motor. So how can we make this Supra thing happen? Enter BMW and enter the B58. After many rumors, BMW and Toyota finally ended up launching two different vehicles utilizing the BMW Z4 platform as a base and also the B58 motor as a base, and also the transmission, the ZF that was paired with the B50. You know what? The Supra kind of sounds like a BMW, doesn't it? But all jokes aside, we absolutely know the new Supra is a BMW. The motor is a BMW. The transmission that was sourced to pair with the B58 was originally in a BMW application, as well as the underlying software and hardware that runs the actual power plant was made by BMW. Again, come on guys, let's cut the BS. We all know it. The joke kind of ran through the ground now. So basically you had a BMW Z4 and also a BMW Supra. And yes, I will now refer to it for the rest of the video as a BMW Supra. However, even though both of these vehicles share the same powertrain, they're kind of a little bit different, not only in the actual underlying mechanics and how they were actually tuned. Basically, Toyota ended up doing a lot of quote-unquote reliability studies when it came to the underlying hardware, but also tuning the chassis separately for the Supra, separately from the Z4. So BMW did their part and then Toyota did their part. More or less, the vehicles are the same underneath, obviously, but they do have their own unique driving characteristics. Also as well, thanks to the Supra nameplate, we have seen a very large uptick in the hype train and also the amount of Supras that have actually been moved, especially compared to the Z4. Even most recently with Toyota entering a manual transmission option for the Supra that appeases those enthusiasts that wanted that manual very badly. I mean, personally myself, I kind of want a Targa top too, but it kind of sounds like it's dead, unfortunately. Like, man, like, bro, if you gave me a BMW Supra and it was a Targa and also a manual, bro, I might have to trade in whatever I have right now. I just picked up the C5. Might have to trade that thing in, man. I would need that Targa Supra. But today we're going to look at things from a little different angle, a slightly different angle. The Supra story has kind of been covered and beat with a dead horse. Obviously, it's the more popular option. But what a lot of individuals actually want to know, and what I wanted to know myself from my own sense of curiosity, was, does the Z4 actually stack up to the Supra? Can it even hold a candle to the Supra? Today, we find out. Welcome to another episode of CGC, and today we are going to explore in depth the BMW Z4. Let's get it. Stepping inside the Z4, you're met with what you would expect from a BMW sports car. I had a similar analysis hopping out of the X7 M60i. Even in the videos that I have to come, I'm going to say the same thing about the XM and also the M3. All the interiors are fairly similar. All the vehicles I drove were automatics, DCTs, so they're pretty similar on the inside. But that all being said, even though they're similar, it's still gorgeous. It feels quality. It feels like premium. It feels like you're picking up and sitting in an expensive sports vehicle. Moving on to the performance, of course, the Z4 is equipped with BMW's infamous B58. For, in a lot of cases, a lot of people are getting 600, 700, 800 horsepower out of these things, man, which is absolutely incredible. But what do you expect, man? It's a straight six. Straight six have always been able to be not only extremely well balanced, but also make an enormous amount of power, right? And that's going back to that original 2JZ GTE that was in the Supra, which was over-engineered, all types of internal forged parts. And that's why it could make 1,000 horsepower easily. We see a lot of those similarities here with the B58. Like I mentioned, people are easily tapping 700 horsepower. I actually have a buddy with a 700 horsepower plus Supra as well. He absolutely loves it and has had no issues so far. However, in stock form, you are going to get around 382 horsepower and 369 foot-pounds of torque out of a 3-liter setup on this longitudinally mounted straight six. You're gonna get from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, which is pretty quick for a vehicle that weighs this much, weighs around 3,600 pounds. But that launch control does a good job of getting you off the line. And the turbo is small enough where you still get a good amount of response. Not the zippiest response ever. Like if you're in a small four-banger with a little teeny tiny small turbo, then you're gonna get immediate response and it's almost gonna feel like it's an ICE motor. The Z4 doesn't disappoint, especially when the top is down. You really get an engaging feel. Now, of course, BMW's more recent models do lack a little bit in terms of the actual steering feel. Once again, I would even put, another modern car like the Veloster in as having a much better steering feel than a lot of these newer BMW products. However, the aura of the car, it's zippy. I love the ZF transmission in this vehicle, man. It is a DCT, it is an 8-speed, but like an older M4 model that I actually reviewed, the DCT in that M4 was extremely clunky, like a lot of DCTs are at low speed, right? Like these transmissions are built to shift fast, they're built to be aggressive, and they're really built to perform on aggressive upshifts, aggressive downshifts. So when you have a transmission that's geared to that end, and then you try to putter around town at 5 or 10 miles an hour, it's a lot of this. It's a lot of jerkiness, it's a lot of back and forth. I did not feel any of that in the Z4, which gave it a lovely experience at low speeds. But when you get on it, you still get those quick upshifts, quick downshifts as well. And you're also blessed with a lot of snapples, cracks, pops, burbles from the motor as well. It's not as pronounced as like, you have an aftermarket exhaust on it where it's going to be crazy, like gunshots in the back, pow, 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 pow. In the background, you get what I'm saying, which is super annoying. Why do y'all do that, man? Why are you trying to frighten all the old ladies on the road and stuff with your gunfire, backfire? but it does burble, it rumbles, and it's a great sounding stock exhaust, man. Great sounding stock exhaust, which actually pleasantly caught me by surprise. Also with the M40i, of course, you're gonna have adaptive electronic dampers, which greatly helps with the way the vehicle handles. You're also gonna get beefed up, very large M Sport brakes, of course, and then you're also going to get a limited slip differential as well. Also, this particular vehicle pulled 1G on the skid pad for car and driver, which, you know, in all is pretty impressive. So, as you guys know, the Supra has been reviewed to death. Most individuals say the Supra is going to have a little more athletic demeanor, especially at the limit, like when you're on the track, compared to the Z4. Yeah. And that's really thanks to Toyota really honing down and focusing on those driving dynamics and characteristics to again try to live up to that legendary Supra name. Now, funny enough, and I didn't even know this, but when the Supra first launched, only had around about 330 horsepower, and the reason for that was that it actually had a different V58 in it than the Z4 version. As we know, the Z4 pumps out about 380 horsepower, and I thought they were exactly, you know, identical when they first came out, but that's not the case. However, in 2021, the JDM market and Toyota finally got a hold of the new B58, the more updated one, the one that the Z4 got, and it not only came with a larger turbocharger, but also a revised cylinder head, and as I understand it, a revised exhaust manifold. So that's gonna bring up the horsepower for the Supra now to be exactly identical now to that Z4, much to the you know, happiness of actual Toyota's owners. I can't imagine those individuals who got the first B58s that came out. I would imagine you would have to trade it in, right? After the motor changed that much, after you paid what, over 50 grand for one? I know I would. Now, one thing that also caught me off guard, because I believe that both vehicles were pretty much the same vehicle under the skin, right? Outside of, you know, the suspension logic or small minute details like that. But if you got in one, it would more or less feel the same, right? Which should translate into very, very similar 0 to 60 times, right? However, when I started to do my research, even though the Z4 weighs more than the Supra, the Z4 weighs about 3,600 pounds. The Supra weighs about 3,300 pounds. However, funny enough, you know which vehicle is faster 0 to 60? You guessed it correctly. It's the Z4. As tested by Car and Driver, the Z4 sprints from 0 to 60 in roughly 3.5 seconds, whereas the Supra sprints from 0 to 60 in roughly 3.8 seconds. 0.3 of a second, I'm just like, dog, like that's not that close. So that being said, if you have a stock Supra, and of course the argument is gonna be, Fred, you know, Avi, and nobody is going to keep their car stock. We all buy our cars to gut them out, and then we forge the internals, and then we all make 3,000 horsepower, and then we go compete down at the drag strip. I'm like, man, cut the BS, man. Like, I'm really gonna do a study one day. I need to make this video, but I don't think car enthusiasts realize, first of all, the sports car sales are readily decreasing, same thing with manuals, but it's obviously a small percentage of the amount of vehicles that these OEMs sell. However, I don't think a lot of people realize why people actually buy sports cars. People think people buy sports cars to gut them and then drag race them and take them to the track. Bro, fam, everyone, ladies, no one tracks their cars. No one takes their cars to the drag strip. At best, you're gonna get some aggressive roll racing on 495 or 50 out here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, or 301 or something like that. You wanna know the number one reason why individuals buy sports cars, guys and girls, boys and girls? It's for looks. It's aesthetics. Moving on to a little bit more statistics. So moving on to roll times, 5 to 60 time, a metric that I love to use because it more so simulates real world driving than like a prep drag strip that you're gonna measure times against. So they roughly get the same time from 5 to 60, actually the same exact time, 4.4 seconds for the Supra, 4.4 seconds as well for the Z4. And what does that tell me? that really tells me that it's the launch metrics or the shift points that's really differentiating why the Z4 is getting off of the line so much quicker than the Supra. It's also the same sentiment when you look at the quarter mile time. It's like 12 seconds for the Z4 and like 12.1 seconds for the Supra, which is essentially, you know, 1/10 of a second is essentially the same time. So it seems like at first BMW wanted to make sure they kept most of the goodies in terms of the beefed up, the real B58 engine. With the Z4, when both the vehicles launched, they wanted to keep the Supra a little bit slower, potentially to drive more sales to the Z4, you know, make sure sales would hold up. And then, of course, after they released the regular version of the B58 to the Toyota Supra and their fan base. However, it still seems like they wanted to keep that edge in terms of 0 to 60 time. And, you know, the next question is going to be, Fred, Avi, you know, why does it matter that much? Why does BMW care that much? Like, are they that petty? And I would say, I mean, I would say BMW is a petty company, but I would say they're petty in general. But it's a marketing gimmick, guys. You guys have to realize that a lot of the decisions that are driven finally make it to, you know, the finally implementation, you know, go through all the validation testing, and it comes out the last product. The last product isn't the best engineered product. It's not the best engineered product. It's the product that they believe that they can deliver to customers and make a wide margin of profit while still giving the customers a bit of quality out of it, whether that's quality of performance, quality of styling, or quality of, you know, interior features, or the feel of luxuriousness. So a lot of the times when it comes to these marketing gimmicks, it's like that's why 0 to 60 is a thing. You know, it's about 0 to 60 time. It's about the way that it looks. It's about the horsepower figures, the torque figures, really the horsepower figures, but the horsepower figures and torque figures. So this really makes sense to me why this Z4 does get off the line a little bit quicker than the Supra. And like I mentioned, it's probably nothing crazy. It's probably transmission logic, guys, on why it's shifting so much more aggressively and really utilizing the transmission the best it can to sprint from 0 to 60. So all in all, Fred, what are your final thoughts about the Z4? My final thoughts about the Z4 is that I actually loved it. I actually loved it. I didn't think I was gonna love it. I didn't come in with a whole bunch of expectations. Maybe actually a little bit negative expectations, because I'm just like, it's gonna be the lesser version of a Supra, and it's gonna feel numb, and it's not gonna have any emotion or feeling or evoke anything out of me. However, when I got in it, it was zippy, it was responsive, it wasn't clunky, it had a great aura out of it, how aggressive the shifts were, how the burbles and the crackles and the pops, and how the motor was rev happy and wanted to sing to its red line. I love all of those aspects. However, when looking at the Z4, you can't look at it like as an adrenaline junkie sports car that's hardcore. That's not its function, and that's not really what it was designed to do. And if you're looking at it from the perspective of what it was designed to do, which was a nice blend between being able to be docile, be subdued, putter around the city, while also being spirited and aggressive, and it lets you change that character and have a little bit of playfulness in it, it absolutely 100% nailed it. One, you know, again, I don't really care for the soft top, but I love the convertible aspect. I love how aggressive it can be, but I also love the refinement. It was such a nice little car to drive around town in, and then when I wanted to sprint through a tunnel or take a hard corner, it handled it with no problems at all. So overall, I think the Z4 has definitely been overlooked. People have not given it its proper attention because we all just assume, obviously, and I'm guilty of this as well, just assuming the Supra is far, far superior. But you gotta remember, guys, it's a BMW Supra. A BMW Supra. So because it's a BMW Supra, the BMW Z4 couldn't be that far apart from the BMW Supra. Now, we also love the Supra as well. We love what it's done for, at least I would say, I really appreciate what it's done for the car culture, particularly them actually showing that people still want to spend their hard-earned dollars on manual transmissions. I salute Toyota, I salute BMW for making that happen, really on Toyota's part, because they were the one that retrofitted the transmission and really had to squeeze that in there instead of the ZF transmission. So double salute for Toyota. However, guys, don't you put a German motor in another car, man. I'ma let it slide this time. Don't do that ish again, man. Don't do that again. You know what I'm saying? You were able to develop in-house the motor, the three-cylinder turbo banger for the GR Corolla, man. Damn it, do that again. Don't put a BMW motor in there again, man. We're gonna let it slide this time, man, but we're not gonna rock for it next time. We're not gonna rock for it. But with that being said, guys, what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts and comments below. And also too, I would also be curious, guys, give me your opinion on how you feel about the Z4, particularly if you've driven it. If you've never driven it, then maybe wait till drive it, but give me your comments about the Z4, particularly if you've driven it or you've driven it and the Supra. Give me your comments on why it's been so overlooked. But this little purple machine that I took out there, absolutely loved it, enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one. Fred out.